Welcome to Halifax. We're on a 10-day road trip through Nova Scotia, and the first stop on our tour is this vibrant and lively city. Halifax is one of the most beautiful cities in all of Canada. Anchored by the world's second largest natural harbour and steeped in rich history and maritime charm, there's something in this historic port city that will steal the heart of every visitor that passes through. I'm going to show you lots of can't-miss things to do and places to see when you're here in Halifax. So first things first, and a major draw to the area, the food. If you're a foodie, and more specifically a seafoodie, Halifax and the rest of the province of Nova Scotia is seafood mecca, and home to some of the best lobster in the world. The first stop on our seafood pilgrimage was at the Five Fishermen. It's a must-stop destination for some swanky surf and turf situated in a historic building right across the street from City Hall with a gorgeous modern maritime themed decor. After meeting up with one of our local friends, we all elected to have the lobster, naturally. And the building that the Five Fishermen occupies actually used to be a morgue, and it saw some of Titanic's victims as it was the closest port to the site of the sinking. So the ghost stories are abundant and intriguing here, to say the least. Our second lobster of the day, yes, you heard that correctly, when in Rome, right, was at McKelvey's. Located in a historic fire hall only a block away from the waterfront, McKelvey's offers a more down-to-earth seafood dining experience, including my favorite part, the quintessential lobster bib. Prices were also a little less expensive here too. Okay, now that we have the gratuitous lobster shots out of the way, let's talk about things to do in Halifax. One of the best things to do as soon as you get here is the Harbour Hopper Tour. This is an amphibious vehicle converted to a tour bus/boat. If you've never been to Halifax before, this is the perfect way to get the whole lay of the land and sea. On board, the tour guide shares all the important history of the city, landmarks, and things to do all over town. We start with a tour through downtown. Then, after the captain sends it into the harbor, you're greeted with breathtaking views of the waterfront before returning to land. It's quite the experience, and we had a lot of fun. And of course, no trip to Halifax is complete without paying homage to the original birthplace of the pride of Nova Scotia. That's right, Alexander Keith's India Pale Ale. Tours of the original 1820 brewery begin every hour from the coveted courtyard. After being welcomed by the tour guide, you're taken through the history of Alexander Keith and the origin of his beloved bubbly libation. The tour proceeds to the main brewing floor, where the beer-making process is shared under the amber glow of beautiful copper vats towering overhead. The last leg of the tour is the Stag's Head Pub, which was Mr. Keith's original underground private tavern. The aesthetic of this place cannot be understated. After generous samples of Mr. Keith's finest, and a taste of an East Coast kitchen party, we bid farewell with a toast and a classic Scottish ceilidh. Then we made our way down the tunnel that once saw many a keg roll down awaiting horse-drawn carriages below. A short walk up the hill from downtown takes us to the epic Halifax Citadel National Historic Site. This is a pristine example of a Victorian-era star fort. After multiple iterations, the fort stands proud in its original 1828 configuration, with all the bastions, battlements, and ramparts free to explore. If you're a maritime history buff at all, you will bask in awe at the dozens of naval cannons scattered throughout the fort. The Citadel is manned by troops in period-correct regalia that regularly perform drills for eager enthusiasts and onlookers. And if you time it right, they fire off one of the aforementioned cannons every day at noon, a tradition they've been doing every single day except Christmas Day since 1857. For the naval and maritime history buff in your travel group, make your way to the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic. This captivating museum displays the maritime history of Nova Scotia and the Atlantic region through various exhibits. It features over 30,000 artifacts with dedicated exhibits to the Halifax explosion and the Titanic, as well as 2 ships you can board, including a World War II ship that made multiple escort crossings of the Atlantic to protect merchant ships and also hunted the U-boat wolf packs. The final stop on our journey through history leads us to the Fairview Lawn Cemetery. This is the final resting place of 121 passengers from the Titanic, more than anywhere else in the world. It's a somber yet powerful look back through time to the night of April 15th, 1912. While we were in Halifax, we stayed at the Prince George Hotel, a modern hotel right downtown and only a 5-minute walk from the waterfront. When we checked in, we were lucky enough to be upgraded to the Prince Suite, the nicest room in the hotel with a large living room and a dining room area, a plush king bed, and even a jacuzzi tub in the bathroom. I promise this wasn't a YouTube thing. They don't even know I made this video, but I think it just helps to be really nice to the front desk people, and it was our first time in Halifax, which we mentioned, so maybe that was part of it. For some after-dinner fun, you can head down to the beer garden for a sunset beverage on the wharf, and maybe a side of deep-fried pepperoni, a Halifax classic. The patio is always bumping here, but we always found a table even in the height of summer holidays. This was one of my favorite views in all of Halifax. For a little more of a fancy nightcap or maybe some oysters, the Press Gang has you covered. They've got an awesome aesthetic in the basement of this historic mansion. This was our favorite little pub in town. And just look at these oysters. Make sure you ask your server about the history of the building and how it got its name. For live music, we enjoyed the Triangle Pub and the Lower Deck. And of course, no trip to Halifax is complete without a stumble to Pizza Corner at the end of the night. This was just a sample of what you can get up to in Halifax. For more ideas and things to do, I've got a full blog post about how to spend 2 days in Halifax, so I'll link that in the comments in the video description. Stay tuned for part 2 when we visit Peggy's Cove and Lunenburg. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Classic Canadian beaver tail.